Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, Sage Year End 2017. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join us today. There are a couple of housekeeping items we'd like to mention before we begin the presentation. All attendees are in listen-only mode. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please either raise your hand so that we can unmute you, or you can submit them through the GoToWebinar question box. We'll follow up after the presentation to answer any questions that you may have. I'd like to introduce today's speakers. We have Alan Niergarth, our SAGE Principal Consultant, and Jim Fuller, our SAGE Senior Consultant here at Socius. So at this point, Jim, I believe I'm ready to transition over to you.
Okay, great. Thanks. I appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. We're going to talk a little bit about this most wonderful time of the year with the holidays, family, and tax and financial ramifications for the year to come.
I know, I can't wait.
Yeah, it's great. So anyways, I do appreciate you taking the time out, and looking forward to going through these items with you. Quick about Socius and a couple of things I want to cover. Just our mission statement. Our focus is to help you use technology to grow, to be better, and to be more. And as a spinoff of that, one of the things I'm trying to get out to everybody is some of the other services that we offer. Some of the things that we do. First, why Socius? We have a lot of experience. We have a lot of people working here that have worked here for a long time in the industry. We're gold certified with Microsoft. We're certified with Sage. We're certified with other practices as well. And we're here to help you guys achieve results in your revenue, your growth, your profitability, and your efficiency. So we do appreciate you being a customer of ours in the Sage group and practice. And just want to make you aware of some of these other items that we do have available, with Microsoft Office 365, Dynamics, Business Intelligence, and just consulting in general, helping you get your business lined up, improve your processes, and so on and so forth. So I like to pitch that to everybody because people aren't aware of everything that Socius does. I know I wasn't when I started working here, so I feel it's important to get that out here. But we're here for Sage. You guys have been long-term customers of Sage, and we do appreciate that. And we're going to tell you how to get the most out of that first and foremost. So without further ado, we're going to get started with today's topic, which is your year end and how we can help with that, with some tips and some pointers on how we think things can move smoothly for you and help you in the coming year. One of the things, I'm an IT guy with an IT background. One of the most important things I think get overlooked every year, especially some of the things I've seen this year, backups. Everybody should have a backup, and not only a backup at this stage in the game, but a disaster recovery plan. If you don't have one, I suggest you work with your internal people or your IT group to develop one. It needs to include an off-site backup. A lot of places I've been into recently, I look and they have a backup device that's attached to the server that's right there. So, that's great. You have a backup, but, fire, theft, or disaster, probably going to wipe out both machines at the same time. In today's age, with the price of flash drives, if you've got an officer that can take a flash drive off site, if you've got somebody that you trust to take the drive off site, we should have an off-site backup. It's cheap and efficient. Just plug it in, once a month, certainly at the year end, and make sure you have an off-site backup, even if it's on a flash drive in a fireproof safe, just somewhere other than where your server and your data is. It's too important. We've lost people, we've had people lose things because of disasters. There's also been a lot of malware, a lot of ransomware attacks this year, and it's cost people a lot of time and money rebuilding from those things because they're not properly protected. Follow your backup procedures. Inside of that, with Sage, this is how we recommend you do your backups. So, you can back up your entire Sage directory, at least back up your company directories, and then separately maybe back up your home, your SOA, and your mass system users directories. So again, label it, back it up, store it off-site somewhere safe. So that's near and dear to my heart, and I hope we can all do that this coming year. Also, something that I think could be done from some of the things I've seen this year is, look at how your modules are set up. Make sure that your history retention, your current period year, and your budget settings are what you expect them to be. You can do that by going into some of the screens. We're going to look at a couple here. Accounts payable options, for example. If you go into accounts payable options on the main tab, over on the right side where it's highlighted, you'll see, what your current year is. It also shows your current period. So you can verify that. Make sure if you're doing 1099s, all that matches up to what you would expect it to. On the history tab, same thing in accounts payable. This is also in many of the other modules. There's years to retain history. I believe the default with Sage now is 2 years. So if you want to be saving it for 7, that needs to be changed manually. And every year that needs to be reviewed because it seems that it gets reset. So please check on that. Make that an annual thing, and you won't have any problems going forward. There won't be any surprises when you look for history that's not there. And then the budgeting. Some of you are using budgeting, some of you aren't, some of you probably should be. You can use this year's history for next year's budget, and that's something you can actually do down here by copying actual default budget at the year end, and that will allow you to have a budget of some sort moving forward in next year, especially for people who aren't using budgeting right now. It's a good place to start to get some sort of budgeting in place so you have a benchmark for your company. A little more pre-planning. Some things we can help, make your new year go more smoothly. Just some more review. So determine your cutoff dates in each module. Know when you need to have things closed out before you can close a period. Verify your paperless office settings. Make sure that the reports you're expecting to be generated or the ones that you want to be generated are set up and being generated. Especially for people using paperless office, verify that you have adequate storage. When you build these paperless office libraries, we do tend to use more space, and we save more data, especially when we change the history out to 7 years or more. Make sure you have adequate storage, either it's external storage or built onto the Sage drive. Year end is a great time to look forward to any GL account adjustments that need to be made. If you're going to add segments or make edits, now is probably the time to do that. And as on the previous slide, the budgeting tool. If you're not using it, this is a good time to use it. So one of the questions I've had from people is, period end, year end. Do I really have to do it? What's it matter? Does it matter if I leave it open, really? Well, if you're using payroll, then yes, you absolutely need to close your quarters, keep track of things, and do it. If you're not using payroll, it's not as mandatory, but you certainly should. It's too easy if you leave periods open to accidentally drop into the wrong period and post something, and then you spend days or hours or weeks, I've seen, looking for transactions that are in the wrong place to get them moved out. Save yourself some trouble and just make sure the period gets closed in a reasonably timely fashion, and it'll help you keep things straight with inventory, with payables, and pretty much across the board. So with Sage, when we're doing our period end, year end close, there is a specific order that you need to go into. Many of you have done this before. Again, I put it on top of the list: backup, 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 backup. I'm going to say that a lot. But then you start from the bottom and you work your way up. Each of these first modules report up. So bill of materials, work order, barcode, purchase order, sales order, and inventory all report into the GL, into accounts receivable and accounts payable. So if you look, you'll see all the work order modules, and the order modules are first, inventory modules, and all your MRP programs are next, your payroll modules are next, and then the core modules of accounts receivable, accounts payable, and if you have job costs, and then general ledger. It's important to go in these orders. It just won't work correctly if you don't, because you need to have the lower reporting things reported up to the core modules before you can close properly. So everybody needs to develop their own checklist, but that's something that we can help with. On year-end reports, these are the ones we definitely recommend that you do, especially on the payroll side. I know some of you are running payroll, some of you aren't, but we'll come back to that in a little bit. But these are some of the reports that we feel are the most important to run. There are others, and again, that's going to be to your taste and to your satisfaction which reports you run. But we strongly recommend that you follow your own checklist, and if you need help developing that, we would be happy to do that. Some of you again are on payroll. Payroll is a specific, it's its own animal. There's a lot of extra reporting that needs to be done with payroll, especially in the versions we're on now. So there's a special year-end checklist for payroll that we recommend. We're going to want to check our options just like we did with the other modules earlier. Checking the history, checking their checks, checking your current quarter, making sure it's where it's supposed to be. Make sure your accounting data is current, and verify all of your adjustments have been made. And then, with payroll, we need to make sure we copy, when we're done with payroll for 2017, copy that data to an archive company. And that's important because if we need to run a payroll in 2018 before we've got our reports done and our W-2s printed, we'll need to be able to access that archive company in order to run payroll properly. So to run payroll, and that's where we are now, to run payroll for a new year before processing the year end, these are the special considerations you have to have. And that's why we need that backup company. So you're going to download your interim release. You're going to download your 941 update, your tax table updates. You get those all set up, install any payroll enhancements or third-party enhancements you may have. Copy the live payroll company to the backup, and apply the 2018 tax table updates. If you have manual editing to the tax tables, that can be done at this time. Actually, it needs to be done at this time. And you'll perform your year end in the live payroll company.
Jim, I'm going to make a point here, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
So the steps that we found here, these are the steps that are done whether you all take it upon yourself to do your own period end, or like a lot of you that like to have somebody looking over their shoulder or helping them with the period end process. These are the steps that we actually follow when we're helping you with your period end process. We have a few companies that have already reserved some time slots to help do this. But I just want to, as a reminder, that yes, we absolutely will help anybody that has an interest in, having some assistance with this process, perform these steps. And I think we've got some on another page. It's probably the second part of this.
Right. Yeah, we're happy to help. We're also just trying to present you with your own guidelines so you can at least look at it and see what we're doing and see if it's something you want to undertake. And to continue, if we need to run W-2s, we can run them. We'll run the W-2s using the backup company because we have all that archived. This way it doesn't stop you from moving forward with 2018 in your payroll, and we're not waiting. So again, very important that we run that archive at the end of the year and then everything updated before we move forward with the first payroll. Along the same lines, we have the same kind of thing, a little bit less intense with your AP module. If you're using 1099s, a lot of you are using 1099s with your vendors. So there's a specific order of things we need to do there to make sure that we get things closed out for the year. Again, very similar. You close out your 1099 year and move on to the next one. And again, you can refer back to the archive company if you need anything there. So another advantage of having that archive company. At this point, we look at doing, you're going to use your e-filing reporting usually to do that, and that's part of another module. I'm going to have Alan tell you a little bit about Atrix at this point, just because it's something he's more familiar with than I am.
Yeah, sure, I'd be happy to. So, any of you all that worked with me on the period end before, you'll know that with probably starting about 4 years ago, Sage no longer decided to update forms and reports that are governmental forms and reports, and they contracted to work with a company called Atrix, whose specialty is doing exactly that. So in your modules, there's e-filing and reporting, and what that does is open up the Atrix application, which is a third-party application that's free to run, and you can print reports to plain paper for free. But Atrix is a leading payroll reporting and payment solution for accounting and payroll providers. Atrix now provides the services and forms for, I think, most of the Sage applications where payroll or 1099s are involved. And so they leverage Atrix solution to allow you to complete those, and then Atrix takes responsibility to making sure the forms are updated. So every year, about the end of the year, Sage will make available the year-end updates, and Atrix will also make available the updates for the final governmental forms for 2017. Those haven't been published quite yet, but we expect those probably within the next week or so to be available. So if you go to the next slide, Jim.
Okay.
So, as you can see here, Atrix is used both for payroll and AP, so it's your 1099 or any of the payroll-related forms, including the W-2s. Now, there's over 1,800 electronic state and federal forms, depending on what states you're doing business in. You've got compliance for the reports and payments, and guaranteed compliance with all electronic filing requirements via Atrix's single point e-filing center. So as a reminder, what Atrix provides is two things. One is if you want to actually print the forms to your own printer with plain paper that you buy ahead of time, then Atrix, there is no charge to use the forms generating that Atrix does, and you can print, stuff your envelopes, apply the stamps, and mail everything yourself. They do also offer a service, and it's provided on a fee per each either employee or vendor that they're filing for, and they will provide a complete filing service where they'll either email a hard copy form, or if you have an electronic consent, for some of your vendors, they'll also email like a PDF or an electronic form to them. And then they also will file the state and federal forms as well. So we do have some clients that do take advantage of both methods of filing and using Atrix. And we can go to the next slide.
Okay. Okay, so in a summary of what we've talked about here is the end of the year, it's holidays, there's so much going on, and we have enough anxiety without having to worry about our year-end close. And that can be said for any period end, but especially year-end. I know it drives people crazy, and there's a lot more to think about than normal. So to make things easier, again, make sure you have good backups and a plan. Follow the order of closing, follow your custom checklists, and communicate. Communication is important, especially with people, that have multiple departments that are working together. Some of you are in the same building, some of you are not. Everybody loves it when you close out a module, but that one person's still hanging out in there. So, good communication of, plans and timing is important. It'll make it less stressful for everybody. Use your resources. You got Sage Sites, Sage City, Sage University. There's lots of resources out there to help you walk through things. Your reseller site, associates, our phone support, Alan, myself, and Jeremy would be happy to help with anything. And there's a lot of good documentation right on your screen, especially with the newer versions of Sage. Right on your little web portal there, there's lots of documentation on things that can help you get through your process. Consult with your business partner. If you have special needs, circumstances, changes you want to make, enhancements you'd like to see, anything we can do for you for future planning, whether it's in the Sage or maybe one of the peripheral things, with having Sage work with Microsoft Outlook or SharePoint or, document management and storage, any of that stuff, we would be happy to talk to you about. So, please reach out. One of the things coming up for most of you this coming year is going to be, or many of you, is an upgrade to 2018, especially those of you that are on payroll, and I'll show you why here in a second. Sage is shifting to more of a subscription model, just like the rest of the industry. They're really offering some really good incentives here this year to do it, some zero-cost rollovers and some things that are, pretty attractive at this point. So again, reach out to Lori or one of us to talk a little bit about that. Outside of that, the Sage 100C subscription platform has more features. It's a lower cost of ownership overall. The updates are perpetual. You don't have to worry about applying your updates within the system. We still need to do your software updates. I should probably clarify that. let's see. Yeah, predictable annual cost is important. One of the things with your subscription is, there's a guarantee it's never going to go up more than 10% a year. Whereas, if you're owning your software, there's less predictability there. We're not sure, what they'll do, long term as far as your annual maintenance. So definitely an advantage there. And then there's enhancements to the period end, which is kind of what we've been talking about here, which is why I brought this up in the first place. So especially for payroll people, huge advantages to going to the new payroll module in 2018. You don't have to do any of the things that we talked about in this seminar as far as creating extra companies and archiving and moving things back and forth, because you can continue into a new quarter and process payroll without having to close the previous, which is a huge advantage for people that, especially when you have a payroll on the 2nd of January or something, or, first day or two of the period that you're moving into. So, you can have multiple local taxes, which will replace some of the enhancements you guys have had to have in place at this point. All the reports are now in Crystal. It's Crystal 2016 now, which is nice. All the reports are in there and can be edited. The structure is more logical. It matches the rest of what Sage has gone to in the other modules in years past. So it's a little quicker, a little more efficient. And historical data is there quarter or by year for all years saved. Going back to that historical area in your options, you want to set that as long as you want. So you can look at every quarter for 7 years if you want to at this point with the new module. Important thing with 2.0 also is all the tax calculations are now performed as a connected service. So what that means is part of the subscription is the updates are done automatically. And there's not going to be tax table updates. There's not going to be things you have to do. That's going to be done in real time by the system. So nothing has to be done on your server. That'll just be fed from the cloud to your server to your system. And all the local taxes are now included in the engine as well. So it's going to save a lot of steps on your tax calculations, your updates, and some of the steps at the end of the year and the quarter you won't have to do anymore because it's all done for you by this system. And that's included at no charge with the 2018 subscription. Some things for people that have requested, longer codes, they've now included that. Standardized tax rules are now part of that, along with pension and cafeteria plan deductions could be done. So many of you have separate systems now that calculate and work with those things, and now that can be included in the standard payroll module. Well, I kind of went through that quickly. I think I have a little bit of time left. If I went too fast, I apologize. I'd like to open this up to any questions at this point.
Sure. While we wait for any questions, if you have those, feel free to put those in the question box and we will get those answered. And we do have another Sage webinar on Thursday for AP automation. It is also from 1 to 2 p.m. So you feel free to register for that and join us on Thursday, December 14th. And there are no questions at the moment, but we will definitely hang on another minute or so. If you do have those questions, feel free to put those in the question box. And then also you definitely reach out to Jim, Alan, Lori, if you have any questions following this webinar as well.
So I'll make a mention while if there's any payroll attendees still on the line when we were talking about the 2018 version. This is a rewrite of payroll that we've been waiting for about 15 years. So it's pretty big. So I think it's going to be pretty significant for next year for those that are interested in modernizing how the payroll module is working.
All right. Well, with that, since there are no questions, we will give you guys time back in your day. But again, feel free to reach out to Jim, Alan, Lori, and we will get those questions answered if anything comes up down the road. So thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.